New world, new world. What can I say about this game? I personally had no idea this was coming out, but when I heard Amazon were releasing a new MMORPG, I was kind of intrigued. I mean, come on, it's Amazon, the biggest company in the world, and with the money they have, any game of this nature will always have an appeal. So I reached out to Saga, who was kind enough to give me a beta code, and I was ready to play. This is my review. Now before I start, I want to make a few things clear. This is of course my opinion based on my experience, and this review will not contain any thoughts on the PvP side of the game as well. I didn't do any PvP, and I'll explain exactly why. I understand that this game's main focus was PvP, but I just couldn't get around to doing it. Plus I did get my key relatively late, so I didn't have much time anyway, but still, let's go. So you start the game off with a fairly basic cinematic, giving off a Spanish Inquisitor type vibe. The animation looks great, and it builds some hype for the game at least. In my playthrough, I did say it was quite similar to Monster Hunter World. Anyway, so during this cinematic, you get to create your own character, which has, well, it's not the most in-depth character customization. I hope this ain't my guy. Oh, it is. LOL, let us do that. Let's just say it didn't keep me there deciding for ages, but none of the choices was actually what I wanted, but it is what it is. The ship crashes and then you start on a shipwreck beach. You have a quick interactive fighting tutorial where you have to press the buttons on screen to fight off this enemy, which I thought was quite impressive. Then you run through this beach into towards the mainland, fight off a couple more enemies, get a skill point, and then you fight your first boss. This fight was very basic, he didn't really pose a threat, and after you hit him a few times, he does some something, and you're transported into the first area. Now I want to say quickly that the graphics on this game are amazing. It's a beautiful looking game with wide landscapes, great colors and textures, great lighting, and it really brings the world to life. Just the way the environment is set out, you can see really long shots into the distance, you can see landmass further away, and it just really looks like a very good looking game. As with most MMORPGs, the first area usually serves to help you understand the basics of the game, and this game was no different. You do a few missions that force you to craft a tool, skin an animal, craft food, and so on. One of the biggest praises I give to this game is the crafting slash skill system, and whilst playing it I couldn't help but make comparisons to RuneScape. It honestly feels like RuneScape's little cousin, New World Scape or something like that. You see that tree over there? More time you could probably cut it down. You see that big rock over there? Make a pickaxe and start swinging. The game really shines when it comes to the aspect and the different processes you can take materials through, such as smelting, smithing, etc., to come up with a final product, add layers onto the whole experience. It reminds me of a game, right? I've always dreamed of wanting a slower, more realistic game where you actually need to take the time to gather resources, and without them, you cannot do anything. For example, to set up a camp, you need resources. I think that is very, very cool. Learning all the combat mechanics, weapons, moves was quite fun. With 14 weapons in the game, it makes it really appealing to new players, and the eagerness to learn how each weapon works keeps you engaged with the story as you wait for like a new weapon to drop. All the weapons operate a little differently and they feel unique. The free-flowing combat did feel good initially, being able to actually aim your bow and arrow and shoot, having to aim your attacks and combat rolling, etc. It made for an entertaining experience as you control how a lot of the battle goes. At first I started off with the fire staff as I generally like magic, but I must admit it did start feeling quite weak, and I quickly decided to start primarily using the hammer, which was literally destroying mobs. It was also very easy to level up each weapon as well. Just use it for a bit, you get a bit of XP, which eventually gives you a skill point, and you can use that to unlock an ability. Each weapon you equip has the potential to use 3 different abilities, and since you can hold 2 weapons, it means you can have up to 6 abilities. Now I may get some stick for saying this, but the weapon trees, despite there being 2 for each weapon, in my opinion was kind of lackluster. Of course each different tree fits a different playstyle, but all in all there was only around about 4 potential moves you can get from each tree, with the rest being stuff like buffs and passives. Because it was so easy to unlock abilities, you can very quickly get the necessary moves for a particular build, and I tested this by watching a random video on YouTube, and the guy had a great hammer. The moves this person had in the video was the exact same moves I had, and I was only like level 10 at the time. Now you lot may think this is not a problem as you can quickly get the best moves, but I found it problematic because I came to the realization this was it. This was essentially what the combat had to offer. After playing for a couple hours, I had the core moves needed for quite a good build, and it killed all excitement to continue grinding a weapon, so eventually I could unlock some special ability that took ages to get because there was no real reward in that aspect. And I guess something that played a part into that was the fact that you could literally respec up until level 20, which was good in my opinion because I didn't feel like I was confined to one weapon. So I continued playing the game story mode, which was absolutely boring. They were all structured the same. You go out, you kill X number of enemies, gather this, collect this. Very standard, very straightforward. When I reached level 10, I was excited to start leveling up. I took on a load of quests from the town's project board, and after like 30 minutes of attempting to find lemons, I got so annoyed. These missions were very, very easy, but for some reason, I couldn't for the life of me find the stuff I needed, like lemons. I tried the marketplace, nothing there. Then I tried to do another mission, kill a few enemies, whatever, and after a quick search on Google, I found that the only place to get this material I needed for this particular mission was across the whole map in a place where I'd most likely get killed by a higher level enemy on the way. So then I defaulted into the go there, fight this type of quest, and ended up visiting the same location around 4 times. Look at this mission, for example, at some mountain. I went there on 4 different occasions. One of them was for a completely different person, fair enough. But the other one was from the town's project, and it gave me the same mission like 3 times. Plus, there is no real way to run faster, so you're constantly traveling at this slow, mundane speed trying to get everywhere. There are no mounts, no nothing. You can fast travel, but it actually costs some resources, and you need to go to that location first. Like I said, sometimes on the way, you'll get killed by mobs. And that part really tipped me off because I spent most of my time just running back and forth, and who wants to run? It's boring. Even though the world looks great, I wanted to level up and get into the higher tier stuff. The enemies had no real variety, and I started to see the flaws in the combat a lot more. There was no real indication when an enemy was about to attack, other than when they were going to do a heavy attack. Now you may say that, well, that means you're meant to take your time and study your opponent, but honestly, they were insignificant random enemies, and I just didn't want to spend the time studying them and how they move because they didn't mean anything. They were mobs. I didn't care. They didn't deserve the time of day. Most abilities had a fairly long cooldown, so after I'd done my rotation, which was usually block break, stun, and knockdown, I just started using a mixture of light attacks and heavy attacks. In most scenarios, I couldn't even really switch to my secondary weapon because that was usually a ranged weapon. And one thing that really disappointed me was that there was no real combos you could do with these basic attacks. Sure, if you press light attack constantly, it does a sequence animation, but that was it. It wasn't like I do 2 light attacks and a heavy attack which prompts a new animation. No, none of that. With all of this combined, I just quickly started to lose interest in the game, and by around the 6th hour, I was not having fun anymore. I was bored, to tell you the truth. I did venture out into another area, and I mean, I was killed along the way, but I had to take a different route. And when I arrived, it was just the same stuff again. Same missions, just different looking mobs really. This new area did introduce me to fishing, which was, like I said earlier, it's amazing. The level of detail referring to the fresh water, the salt water, bait, the interactivity, all of that was pretty amazing. Truth be told, I didn't even play the last 2 days of the beta because I just wasn't interested anymore. All in all, I know I didn't try the PvP, but New Worlds doesn't feel special to me. It certainly doesn't feel like it's made by the biggest company in the world. I don't think it does anything particularly amazing. And yes, the crafting system is great. It's not revolutionary as it's been done before. The game isn't bad. It's not in any sense bad. I just feel like it wasn't for me. And that's a shame because one of the things that drew me to the game is the fact that I have been looking for a new MMO RPG to play. I haven't played one in a while, and I was hoping this would be my gateway back into it, but it simply wasn't. Thank you guys for watching. This has been a different type of video. If it's something you guys want to see more of, please let me know down in the comments. If you managed to get your hands on New Worlds, let me know how you lot found it. We can discuss. I'll be down in the comments talking. But for now, it's been your boy Sly, and we out.